Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Why Real Estate is the #1 Wealth Building Tool and How You Can Start Investing Like the Top 2%. So we are Monica and Vaughn Jazik. We're real estate investment specialists and wealth builders and owner of Real Property Investments, where we help real people build real wealth through real estate. Our journey began 13 years ago when we had our first of 4 kids, and I realized that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. We soon realized it was almost impossible in today's society to live on one income. So Vaughn was making way above average income, and I was still working part-time as a teacher, and we found ourselves still not making enough money every month to make ends meet. So as a young family, we really were in the learning stages of our financial journey. So rather than accepting the situation, we confronted it head on to build wealth for our family. We started out doing exactly what traditional financial planning says to do. So this might sound familiar to some of you. Go to work longer hours, or even take on a second job. Save at least 10% of your income for retirement in a savings account, or invest in bank products such as mutual funds. Save for your kids' education fund by opening a RESP or RESPs and grow this money in bank products. Open up a TFSA and save more money here as well. Ideally 6 months worth of income for a just-in-case scenario. And on top of all that, pay for your mortgage, your household bills, your groceries, your automobile expenses, your kids' activities, and save for the extras, such as vacations or any personal pursuits you might have. And of course, never, 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 you do all this without carrying any debt. So although we started out on this way very, very ambitiously with the help of our quote unquote neighborhood financial planner, and opened up RSP accounts, RESP accounts, TFSAs, and we did still miraculously manage to save 10%, which we had to invest in traditional bank products. It really didn't take us too long to realize, A, we were never going to be able to afford to retire at this rate, and B, we would never be able to pay for even one of our kids' university education. Never mind 4. So although our kids seemed to need me more as they got older, the only hope in hell we really had as a typical Canadian family to survive financially and be able to provide for our family was for me to go to work full time. And I know we are not alone. A large percentage of Canadian families, US families, Australian families need 2 parents working full time to get by. And 75% of Canadians can't even afford to retire. And 75% of Canadians who pursue post-secondary education actually start off in debt. And I heard a crazy quote that 97% of millennials will never own a home. So in my personal opinion, we are in a crisis situation that is caused by following traditional financial planning practices. So we knew it was time to think outside the box and start exploring alternative investments such as real estate. And with real estate, we created an investment portfolio that not only allowed me to be a stay-at-home mom for the past 13 years, but also will fund the university education of all of our kids, all 4 of them, pay for our retirement, and allowed Vaughn to leave his full-time day job at 40 years old. But most importantly, it has allowed us to help over 800 people nationwide build wealth through real estate and alternative investments by offering new ideas and new viewpoints for them to consider and compare with traditional financial planning methods that we are normally taught. And that's what we will be discussing here on this webinar today. So I'm sure you've heard a lot of these quotes that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate, or Warren Buffett even states that if held for a long period of time and purchased at low rates, houses are even a better deal than stocks. And he would buy up to a couple $100,000 of single family homes if it was the practical thing to do. So everyone knows that real estate is the #1 investment tool and wealth builder. So our real question we have to ask ourselves is, if everyone knows that real estate is the #1 wealth builder, why is not everyone doing it? Why isn't everyone investing like this top 2%? So the three main factors are, and you may have guessed them already because they're not that hard to really come up with, probably because you've experienced at least one of them: lack of money, lack of time, and lack of knowledge. Now, because of these three factors, people tend to automatically discount themselves and invest in more conventional products like stocks and mutual funds. So, as you can see on this slide of this graph, these investments, usually stocks and mutual funds, are extremely volatile, and they're continuously moving up and down. So we often use the example to describe these graphs up like an escalator and down like an elevator. For us, there seemed to be a huge lack of control here. I mean, no matter how well read you are, if you're investing in stocks, this volatility is often aligned with world events that are just way beyond our control. And if it's mutual funds you're investing in, your hard-earned money is in a pool with other investors, and the only control you ever really had was in that one initial conversation with your financial planner or bank rep, in which they really ask you that one question: what is your risk tolerance, low, medium, or high? So after that, you pretty much just wait for your quarterly statements, if you even have the inclination to read them, and then you see how you're performing. So in regards to performance of mutual funds or stocks, it's really important to average out your returns for the past 5 years. And this is really the only way to account for an accurate analysis, as the volatility of the market often leads to biased results. So for example, you may think that you've been getting 15 or 20% returns, but when you average them out over the past 5 years, you really will see what your returns really are. So as we challenge you to do this, you will pretty much find out how 5% is the typical return over 5 years. So it's not too bad, right? I mean, better than 1 to 2% GICs will get you, or 0.5% in traditional savings accounts, right? But don't forget to deduct the following. So you have your 5%, and we need to deduct your MER fees, which are your management expense ratios. So that is 2%. And then you also have to deduct the cost of inflation, which is about 1.8%. So after these overlooked deductions, you could see why even the most proactive people like we were, are struggling and having difficulty saving for these future living costs. Because in reality, we are only growing our money at 1 to 2%. But the good news is there is another way, and the way we chose was investing in real estate. So why do we love real estate so much? Well, the first reason we love real estate is because of leverage. So if you want to buy $100,000 worth of mutual funds, how much do you need to spend? Well, the answer obviously is $100,000. But with real estate, you could buy a $100,000 property with only $20,000. And this is the power of leverage. You put down a small portion, 20%, and the banks will provide the rest. You can own an asset worth $100,000 by using $20,000 of your own money, because the banks know what a safe investment real estate is, that they will loan you the lion's share amount you need to purchase that asset. You could take that same $100,000 that you were going to buy mutual funds and use it to buy 5 $100,000 properties by putting $20,000 down on each of them. So rather than spending $100,000 to own $100,000 worth of assets, you're able to spend $100,000 and own $500,000 of assets. And real estate is the only investment tool that will allow you this type of leverage. So the second reason we love real estate is control. The graph we just looked at with the stocks and mutual funds is not control. The ups and downs are way too tumultuous for us, as it demonstrates how little control we have to external conditions that cause these fluctuations, no matter how well read we are, and no matter how much time we put into selecting the right stock. I mean, no one is more well read than Warren Buffett, and Berkshire Hathaway lost 62%, the shares fell in 2008. So with real estate, you're able to control your investment and maintain control over any possible situation by planning for it. So in our online member section, we actually have an online tutorial that demonstrates the power of control in real estate called How to Be a Picky Investor. So we show you in real estate how you can pick several specific things to create and maintain control. So some examples are pick your area, or pick the type of property you'll be investing in, pick your price point, pick your rental income, pick your tenants, and pick your returns. So at the end of this, you're in the driver's seat and have 120% control over your investment because you knew exactly what you're looking for, and you chose your investment rather than your investment choosing you. So too often, beginner investors fall in love with a property that seems like a great deal, but is it really? Going into real estate haphazardly is not an example of being in control. If this is how you're investing, your results may look like the stock market and mutual fund graph. But if you invest like a picky investor and know your numbers, you're able to predict your returns over a buy, rent, hold period of 5 years and plan for your exit strategy afterwards. And this is another feature we have on our online membership: access to handy tools that can help you with your numbers and plan for fluctuations in the market, like raising mortgage rates, rental rates, regulations, increasing utilities if you're doing all-inclusive rentals, cost of borrowing, vacancy, and delinquent tenants, as well as housing price drops. So a lot of people were shocked when the Bank of Canada announced an increase in mortgage rates, or when appreciation of 26 to 48% and even upwards in some areas came to a standstill and dropped. But these so-called investors were speculating and banking on these variable conditions, overpaying for properties that produce negative cash flow in hopes that they'll make a quick buck when they sell in the future. And these investors were left with cash-sucking properties and possibly underwater mortgages that would have to either continue to lose money every month or sell for a loss. Well, not our investors. Because they were able to pick their property, being a picky investor, using our online tools and input their numbers using conservative returns based on historical norms, such as 5% appreciation and not 30%, and plan for possible mortgage hikes when it's time to renew your mortgage. Regardless of these changes in the housing market happening around them, they were still able to get the exact returns they planned for, allowing them to ride out this downfall and stay in the driver's seat at all times. And that, to me, is control. Another reason real estate is the #1 wealth builder is because it is tangible. You're investing in something that actually exists, not a blip on the computer screen. Unlike stocks or mutual funds, cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin, you can actually see, feel, touch, even taste your investment If you're a control freak like me and you're investing in your area, you could even drive by your property every day if you want. Or you could put the address in Google Earth and boom, there it is. The point I'm making is you're investing in a tangible asset that cannot just poof, disappear. It actually exists, making it a safe investment. And the last reason why I love real estate oh so much is because people will always need places to live. Shelter is one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and even cavemen lived in caves. So with real estate, you know there will always be customers for your product. So now we're going to walk you through some of these numbers. And this is what we do a lot of the time with our investors. And we have tutorials like these to show them how to do their numbers and why real estate really is the #1 wealth building tool. So we're going to show you examples of a real number example of our legal duplex model. So this is in a high growth area in Toronto. And the purchase price here, no, it's not $1 or $2 million like a lot of people think the average house is in Toronto. This is a situation of an area about an hour and a half from Toronto. And so it's in a great high growth area. We're going to buy this house for $375,000 because yes, properties still exist in this price point and some even lower. So this is a legal duplex, meaning it's a single family home that actually has 2 units, so you can get rental income from 2 separate renters, which is excellent for your ROI or return on investment. So the first thing you need to look at here is the purchase price is $375,000. What expenses do we need to pay for to buy this property? So first is our down payment, which we're going to put 20% down, so that's $75,000. We also have to pay our lawyer's fees for closing this property, which is around $1,500. Our home inspection, we'll say, is about $400. The appraisal will be about $400. And the land transfer tax, which is generally rule of thumb, 1% of the property, is going to be $37.50. So the total required to buy this legal duplex for $375,000 is going to be slightly over $81,000. So if you're intimidated by this number, stay with me because we are going to talk about this a little bit more in this presentation. So a profit from our sale, just by holding this property for 5 years and doing absolutely nothing with it, after holding it for 5 years and having it appreciate, meaning every year it goes up in value 5%, 5 years, this $375,000 property, just by this natural appreciation at 5%, is going to be $478,605. So if we're just going to do very, very simple numbers here, we're just going to sell this property. We have to take these numbers into consideration. So we're going to minus the mortgage that we owe alongside the mortgage paydown. We're going to minus real estate commission at a full 5%. We're going to once again pay our lawyer. We're going to pretend there's some discharge fee for the mortgage. And then we're even going to pay ourselves back that initial $81,000 we put down. And we're going to still get $103,000 from the profit of the sale. This equates to over $20,000 a year, or a 26% cash on cash return. Now, how good is 26%? And this is doing nothing with this property. But I think we're missing something here. So we have to look into this a little more. I know this is real estate investing basics, but we're going to get a little less basic and look what we've been doing with this property for the past 5 years. So obviously, we have not just boarded up the windows and just let it naturally appreciate. We are renting this property out, not to one tenant, but to two. So we need to look at the profit from cash flow, which comes from rental income, which means how much cash is in our pocket every month after all expenses are paid. So if we rent out the main floor for $1,400 a month and the basement for $1,000 a month, we're going to get $2,400 a month rental income. So once again, we got to minus our expenses. So we have to minus our mortgage payments, $1,300 a month, our taxes, $300 a month, and the insurance, that's $75 a month. Now, most people stop here, but this is what we train our members and our investors to do, is to really allocate for these extra costs. This is the secret between cash flow positive and cash flow negative properties. All too often, people only look at the property taxes, the insurance, and the mortgage, and they don't look at the following. Property management. You need to put in 8% for property management of the monthly income, because you might not be able to manage your property one day. You might have to have someone do it for you. And if you don't and unforeseen circumstances come up, well, then you're going to be in a cash flow negative situation. So even if you're managing your own properties, you need to allocate at least 8% for property management. Now, if you're investing from a distance and you want more of a passive investment product, you definitely want to allocate for property management, because you don't want to be running up 1 hour, 2 hours away from your house every time something goes wrong. Because hopefully you're out enjoying your life, and even after this 8%, you're still you're still positive cash flow. So this is a worthwhile investment for you. The next is 5% maintenance. We have to maintain our properties, people. You should be doing quarterly inspections. You should be doing annual walkthroughs, and you should be updating your properties in between tenancies. So you don't want to pay for this out of your own pocket from your hard-earned working income. You want to save this and have a little reserve. So when it comes time to repaint or fix the flooring, or add different light fixtures, you want to have the money on hand. You don't want to go into a negative position because you don't have this money saved. And lastly, it's vacancy. Same thing with vacancy. Your tenants may not stay forever. So sometimes it might take you a few months to rent out a unit. You don't want to be in a desperate situation. So you should be saving at least 3%. Depends on the area. You should go check on the CMHC website or your main website of what the vacancy rate is for the place that you're investing, and from whatever that rate is, double it just to be safe, and be prepared and have this little reserve fund aside from their last one's rent as well, just so once again you don't go out of pocket in the event tenants leave. So after looking at all these important expenses, especially these 3 that are often overlooked by people, we are going to have over $2,000 a month in expenses. So to calculate the cash flow, very basic, we're going to take our income, which is $2,400, and minus it from the expenses, which is $2,057, and we're left with $343 cash flow a month. That's over $4,000 a year. If you times it by 5, it's over $20,000. So this is a really excellent return on investment. Because remember, when we invest in real estate, especially in buy, rent, hold, we're not doing it to get rich off the cash flow. It's the long-term wealth building strategy that we are really, really looking for. So if you wanted to calculate the total ROI, we're going to look at the cash flow, which is $20,580, plus the profit from the sale of the property, which is just under $104,000. So your total ROI is just shy of $125,000. So if you look at the initial $81,000 that you invested in this, you will see, and divide it over the 5-year period, you will see your total ROI equates to 30% a year. Now, how much better, once again, is that than the so-called 5% that you're getting in stocks and mutual funds? And this doesn't include anything like Murphy's, or if you want to minus the inflation off this, you're still at about 28, 27, 28%. And this is an excellent return on investment. So if these are the returns that you could generate, then why isn't everyone investing in real estate? Well, let's revisit the initial problems that we identified at the beginning of this presentation. So problem number one is lack of money. I mean, if you feel intimidated or felt intimidated by the initial capital required to invest in real estate, don't feel alone. We felt the same way for several years when we got started and actually disqualified ourselves from the game. So this is you. Don't give up yet. Because what we found, like Scotia says, you just may be richer than you think. So the game changer came for us was the day that our financial planner introduced to us a brand new product called a consolidated mortgage. So this mortgage product allowed us to use equity from our personal residence, giving us the down payment money needed to start investing in real estate. Now, these products are very, very popular now, and they're offered by most banks as consolidated mortgages or mortgages refinance, or even a HELOC, which stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. So they're all slightly different, but the premise is the same. They all allow you to use a portion of the equity you build up in your personal residence to get you the amount of capital you need to get started. So this allowed us to turn our house from a liability to an asset. So although traditional financial advice says your house is an asset, Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad actually points out that it really is a liability, because an asset is something that makes you money every month, and a liability is something that costs you money every month. So unless you have some sort of income generation on your personal residence, even if you have your mortgage paid off in full, your house still costs you money every month. Like, you still have to pay your property taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, and so on and so forth. But if you use some of the equity to buy assets, such as income property, and which allows you to create an income, you have turned your house from a liability into an asset. But the key here is strategic refinance. Like, how much money do you really need? So with the average house being over $1 million, if your mortgage is paid off, technically speaking, you can use $800,000 from your personal residence if you qualify. But do you need $800,000? No. And would we recommend that you pull $800,000 just because you can? Well, absolutely not. Remember, you still need to pay back this money, and you need to know how to account for this cost of borrowing. Plus, all you really need to get started is the $81,000, right? So let's pretend you want to plan for 2 properties. You have $1 million property with no mortgage. You get a HELOC to borrow $200,000 for you to use as down payment money for future property purchases. So you have the funds ready to go, and when you find the property, your cost of borrowing is low, and you still have a safe amount of equity in your property so you can sleep at night. In our opinion, that is strategic financing. And our online member site is filled with webinars and video tutorials with our mortgage agents and specialists discussing these topics in great detail. Another area where funds are often discovered are in registered funds such as RRSPs, RESPs, company group funds, LIRAs, and TFSA accounts. Now, as I said at the start of this presentation, we scrimped and saved our 10% to create all types of these savings accounts in traditional bank products because we didn't know we had any other option. So we thought you needed to invest these funds through a financial planner or an institution, when in reality, you are able to self-direct these funds and grow them in all different types of investment products, including real estate. So transferring your registered funds is a very simple process. And this is one that we walk our members through on a tutorial on our online member site. And once it's transferred, you could deploy it in a variety of ways, such as arm's length mortgage, allowing you to use your registered funds as a down payment to purchase property, or private lending, loan your registered funds to someone else and determine your criteria and your lending rates rather than having an institution determining it for you. Or investing in a syndicated or private market product. Invest smaller amounts of your capital, pooled with other investors, but have the ability to pick your investments and your return. So when we learn these strategies, we immediately transfer all our bank products to these types of investments and into self-directed accounts, implementing a huge variety of these strategies. So we are no longer crossing our fingers, hoping and praying for positive returns. We know exactly what our returns would be and how to stay on track for our projected long-term goals. So we have valuable experts that provide you with further knowledge on these topics. Plus, we have several tutorial presentations outlining each one of these strategies on our members-only site. So the second problem that stops people from investing in real estate is lack of time. And our most valuable asset is time. And with how society is structured today, people are working longer hours, spending more travel time on the roads, commuting to work, and juggling household and family responsibilities on the evenings and weekends. Maybe there's a millisecond left in your personal pursuits like fitness or time for friends. With the majority of your energy going towards this mandatory daily routine to basically ensure your survival, who really has the time to take on something extra? Especially something that requires a lot of planning, focus, and brain power, like creating a wealth plan that will determine the fate of you and your entire family for generations to come. No pressure, right? Well, the first point of action that most people take, and tell me if this is you, is after a long day of work or even possibly on a break at work, is on MLS, endlessly searching and exploring infinite possibilities. So you know how it is. I mean, you start out in a specific area, probably near your house, and you're amazed at how astronomical the house prices are. So you make the map smaller and smaller, and then more properties pop up, and the numbers on the left-hand margin of the screen get smaller too. And then filled with pictures of homes and areas you didn't even know existed. And although this can spark a ray of hope, these daydreaming sessions often leave you with more questions and the lack of time to get them answered. I don't have the time is definitely one of the main excuses that stops people from investing in real estate. Finding good investment properties takes a lot of time, but creating a real estate model, meaning knowing exactly what to buy, what you want to buy, how much you want to buy it for, rent it out for, knowing exactly how much the property will cash flow every month and appreciate over the next 5 years, it's an incredible time-consuming process and almost impossible to do if you have other considerations like family and a full-time job. Now, this does not mean you're lazy, you're not structuring your time properly. The reality is that not only is it a full-time job, it's actually a number of professional jobs combined. So you have real estate agents, mortgage agents, insurance agents, home inspectors, property managers, contractors, lawyers, accountants. I mean, the list goes on and on. Completing a real estate action really requires a team effort. And every investor needs access to their own dream team. Otherwise, they're at the mercy of the professionals they pick to help them complete these transactions. And finding the right team also takes a long time. And the stronger your team is, the more successful you'll be. So what we do at Real Property Investments is A, give you access to our dream team. If you're investing in areas where we have established real estate models with experts in place. So we have real estate agents in specific areas that live, work, and invest in those areas and help clients find cash flow appreciating properties before they even hit the market. We have mortgage agents who establish what you can do before you get started and help you create a mortgage plan. Insurance agents who make sure your rental properties are insured properly. I mean, yes, it is different than your personal residence. Home inspectors who give real inspections and help you make strong offers and confident decisions, as well as to know when to run. And property managers who will manage your properties for you so you can buy out of town properties and confidently know they're being watched and taken care of. Contractors you can trust. Lawyers who can protect you and advise you when closing transactions, a lot different than your family lawyer. And accountants who can advise you on how to buy properties personally or in your corporate name and how not to lose all of your profits in taxes. So you can do it this way, or if you're investing in an area where we do not have an established real estate model or team of experts, you can select option B, where we can help you create your own dream team of experts. So you could use our Real Property Rolodex to find professionals in your local area. And our online membership actually gives you access to tons of videos and online tutorials outlining all of these topics about training and how to pick and monitor your own dream team. So either option puts you in control and in the driver's seat where you pick your professionals rather than them picking you. And while you're working on your day job and living your life, your dream team is hard at work, looking for your ideal investment properties and delivering them directly to your inbox, allowing you to never have to visit MLS again. Because here's a little secret. The majority of properties on MLS are already sold, costing you your most valuable asset, which is time. So the third reason that stops people from moving forward and investing in real estate is lack of knowledge. So how many times have you finally decided to move forward, to push past the fear, to get on the MLS and see what options are out there, only to be extremely confused? So we often say a confused mind doesn't act. And this is where a lot of people's real estate investment journey ends. So I know ours did. For several years, our minds spiraled in confusion, stopping us from moving forward until we finally just went for it. So we invested in a very intense real estate training system. And this is probably the kind you've probably seen in the paper, you know, for the one night free seminar advertised to the famous celebrity face. Well, we ended up in that room, and then in a 3-day seminar, and then in a 6-figure training course that exposed us to every real estate strategy under the sun. And unlike a large portion of participants in the room, we took this very seriously, simply because we cannot afford not to. So we became overachieving A+ students who completed over 100 real estate transactions in our first year of real estate. And although we thought we were doing great because we were so active, we were not. We were implementing fancy strategies and complicated techniques that made sense on paper, but not in reality. We did way too much too soon. We had no sense of focus as we felt we had to pay off this huge price tag for these courses that we paid for on credit cards, causing us to be extremely reactive rather than proactive. But the most hurtful thing to admit was that we lost years of our most valuable asset, time. While we were working 20-hour days, putting in 100 offers a month, and managing simultaneous transactions, we neglected our primary purpose in life, our 4 small children. And these are years we will never get back. But we're very grateful for taking these courses. For without them, we never would have received the knowledge we did and the ability to refine and revise a lot of these outdated methods to actually make them work. We're grateful for the stress of carrying almost 6 figures of credit card debt accumulated with an additional $1 million in mistakes, and the irreplaceable time that we lost with our family because it helped us create real property investments. and create a consulting service that's helped over 800 investors invest in real estate and alternative investment products and create freedom in these investors' lives. So don't reinvent the wheel. Learn from our mistakes. We have created a low-cost, no-obligation way for everyday people, beginner, advanced investors to access educational seminars, field training workshops, both online or in person. And we offer real estate coaching and mentorships that will give you the long-term support you need at a low cost, so you can spend your money on investing in real estate, not on expensive real estate courses that last 3 days and then just leave you on your own. We encourage clarity and focus and have the tools for you to create your own personal freedom plan and real estate model that works for you, taking all the guesswork out of investing in real estate, minimizing your risk, and maximizing your returns. So by now, you are going to know if you need this or not. And we're going to make you an offer. And the last thing we want to do is to waste your valuable time. So if you decided that investing